UCalgary, take 362. I can't math. I'm blessed by the Don't Be Gross mug. Hey friends, it's your good friend Tim Campbell-Smith, digital marketing consultant. Today we're going to review the University of Calgary's digital marketing certificate program. I recently completed this. I will add, I think I kind of speak with authority on this as I completed the program with a 98 average, which sounds great. Also say, don't totally trust that because I've done this for 5 years. If I didn't do well in this course, there would be other glaring problems. This program is offered by a Canadian university, basically training and equipping people to go into digital marketing and to understand the many different facets of digital marketing. We're going to review what the program was like, individual courses, with some tips and notes. Before we go too far, make sure you like and subscribe for all things digital marketing and consulting. So let me say, overall, this is one of the better digital marketing programs that I've ever seen or participated in. The other really noteworthy review that I can leave is that some faculty are definitely stronger instructors and digital marketers, and that really showed in the instruction. I'm not going to name names on maybe the profs that I wasn't super crazy about, but I am going to name drop one prof who is really amazing, led a really brilliant course, but more on that later. So on the side of logistics, this program is about 20 hours per course, 5 courses total, and we're going to review each of those courses individually. Each course takes about 7 weeks, 8 when everything is really said and done, which, if you have any experience with Canadian colleges or universities, courses are normally 42 hours, so 20 is actually quite short, but that's also why it's done in 7 weeks. If you're used to the post-secondary system in Canada, it's going to be a little on the shorter side. If you're not used to post-secondary education or in Canada, it can be a little bit on the longer side. There was also some confusion because course outlines and profs would say, plan for 4 to 5 hours per week in each course. Now, I went into marketing, not math, but if you go 4 times 5, if you went 5 hours times 7 weeks, that's 35 hours total, which is not the 20 hours that they say. So there is a little bit of confusion there on how many hours go into a course. You kind of get the hang of it. Otherwise, at the time of recording, each course was $525 Canadian to take it, which is actually, that's a little high in Canadian tuition because that actually puts it on par with full-time university tuition. So I don't know if the cost was totally justified, but it is what it is. The other note that I have to give for anybody thinking about this is even though courses are presented sequentially and in a sequential number, you do not take them sequentially. My courses jumped all over the place. I technically did start with Foundations, which is BMC 380. I did end with BMC 384, but everything in there is jumbled, and more on that in a little bit. The other thing you should know is that you can take the courses one at a time. So in my first course in Foundations of Digital Marketing, I definitely had some group members who were only doing one course at a time. There were also a couple of us who were doing the program a little more accelerated, taking them as fast as we could, which when we did, and according to our timeline, it took 4.5 months to complete, from the beginning of September right to the middle of December. So let's get into the individual courses, what we covered and what they were like. So let's start with BMC 380, Foundations of Digital Marketing. This course was truly for the beginner of beginners of digital marketing. You have to remember this filter. I am not the typical target audience. I only took this program to formalize my education so that I had a university name beside my experience and my education. I did not need explained to me what a blog was or the difference between social media and display ads. Technically, it was self-paced. I noticed some of my classmates, though, really took it to heart week by week, the content they should be covering. So I technically printed out all the slides. I read all the slides in probably an hour or so. The prof did narrate some slides week by week, so it felt like it had a week-to-week pace if you wanted it, which, cool for those who wanted it, and for those of us who wanted to do it whenever we wanted to do it, that was available to us too. The only thing that got confusing was when assignments were labeled by weeks and what weeks they were due, because, you know, by the end of week 1, I was already done week 4 content. So that could kind of get a little confusing. This course was more so about what are your digital marketing options and what are a couple of considerations about when you should use them. This is though where I saw the real first problem with the program. There's a lot of knowledge, not a lot of wisdom. So we had to do a group assignment, which group assignments are the worst. And in my group, there were a lot of people who weren't experienced in digital marketing. And the course didn't tell us or didn't even explore when we would use some digital marketing options and not others. So when the time came to design a preliminary digital marketing campaign, my group tried to use every option available to them and weren't able to filter when we would and when we wouldn't use certain options. And I think that came from a lack of wisdom that was communicated in the course. Otherwise, it was pretty simple and straightforward. Like the other courses, it involved some quizzes, some discussion posts, and major assignments to be written. Next up was BMC 383 Digital Marketing Analysis. This was rough. Don't get me wrong, the prof was a subject matter expert. But that's the problem. He was such an expert that we were often left to our own devices. In this course, we explored high-level digital analysis theories, and then we were expected on our own to figure out how to go granular. So the course revolved around using Google tools, Google Search Console, Google Analytics, Google Data Studio, and creating an interactive Google Data Studio that didn't have to be interactive because you could hand in a PDF. But there weren't a lot of instructions on Google Data Studio. And for anybody who's never used this tool before, it does require quite an experience and quite a familiarity with Google and Google Data Studio. So that was rough. The other problem is that the instructions for the assignments were half of a paragraph long. And the prof even said, I leave them intentionally vague because I want you to leave this to interpretation. Mama, there was nothing to interpret in that, which just made it confusing. Honestly, we all spent so much time Googling answers that I should have only paid half the tuition and paid Google the other half of my tuition for that course. Nonetheless, a couple cool theories on digital marketing data analysis, more for websites than anything, not a lot on social media, and away we go. Next, we have BMC 382 Digital Social Platforms. Really, it's social media. Please note that the first 2 courses, Digital Marketing Analysis and Foundations of Digital Marketing, were done at the same time concurrently. Social media was the middle floater in between course. So it started at its own time, ended at its own time, and nothing else coincided with it. I'm probably one of the worst people to ask about this course because social media is what I do through and through. I also have to admit, at first I was a little critical and judgmental because not all the references used in the course were timely and relevant. That said, I also then realized that she has a wild undertaking, more so than any of the other profs for any of the other courses in the program, where social media probably changes the fastest compared to any of the other fields. That said, I did also notice that she was keeping up in most other places. So you kind of have to forgive her for not always having perfectly up-to-date information. And I think there were only, out of all the resources in the course, I think there were only 2 or 3 that weren't like as up-to-date as they could be. But otherwise, they were fabulous. I will say this about the social media course in the digital marketing program. This course with Nancy Smith was one of, if not the best courses I've ever taken in my digital marketing career. She was a really brilliant instructor. Part of the course requirement was if you didn't have a Twitter account, you had to create a Twitter account. Her logic being that if you're going to talk and learn and live and breathe social media, you've got to be on it. I thought that was so clever. I also kind of forgive her because she had one of the hardest jobs because there's so much to learn and there's so many subcategories under social media. So I thought in her course design and her course delivery, she really did deliver the foundations of social media marketing, understanding why we use certain social media platforms, some tips and tricks and best practices for each. I thought that was really well done. The other thing that made this course really impressive was that she, without naming it, and I do wish she had said out loud, she expose students to some of the best sources of information on social media marketing. So references and examples and case studies came from Social Media Examiner, HubSpot, Facebook for Business, Instagram for Business, you name it. She had really great sources. So overall, I'm going to say the social media course was the best course to take out of all of them. And please know, even though I did this and I'm framing this around the whole digital marketing program, you can take individual courses. So if you're curious about social media marketing, go and find BMC 382 Digital Social Platforms. It was a really fabulous course, and ideally you can take it with Nancy Smith. She was fabulous. Okay, so now we're in the home stretch. We get to BMC 384, which I'm going to check my notes. 384 was digital promotions and optimization, and 381, which was content management. Is the general feeling about how these courses went. Here's the first problem that made this not a great experience. It was the same prof teaching both courses, and I get the impression that they teach both courses concurrently often. So imagine my shock, horror, confusion when on the first day of classes we log in and it's the same course syllabus that was on both platforms. Not only that, they structured their assignments the exact same way. So you always had a discussion post due on the same week. You had major assignments due on the same weeks. So it was very easy to confuse the two. It took the prof a week and a half to update the course with the right syllabus, but they still didn't update all the correct course information. So you really had to watch which course you were taking. I'm gonna be straight up with y'all. It took me like 2 weeks to figure out, what courses am I even taking? What am I supposed to be learning? After that confusion, here's what I found. Content management was all about the different types of content available to us and best practices around that. Digital promotion and optimization was a course about understanding how to grow on digital marketing and how to improve upon that. So it touches a bit on measurement, a bit on content, a bit on social, and then works towards improvement. The other big critique I had of this is that the prof included quizzes with contradictory questions that didn't have straightforward answers. So that was low-key BS. This was the first time in a long time where I've seen a prof at a post-secondary institution who didn't totally want to see someone succeed and rather wanted to trick them. Come on, who does that help? I will say this of the content course. No matter how new or seasoned you are, this was a great course to understand types of content, tools, and management. I definitely saved a lot of resources out of this course and found them pretty handy. So in conclusion, this was a pretty good program. I would recommend it. I would recommend it as a whole. I don't know if I would recommend it accelerated. It was a little much to be juggling, but I was also running a very successful business at the time of recording and doing the program. But also I want you to know that you can take courses individually, and the social media course was fabulous. I also want to remind you that you're not really doing this in a linear fashion. It does not go BMC 380, 81, 82, 83, 84. It's kind of all over the place. Yes, the culminating assignment in BMC 384, which is the last course, really does pull together everything that you would have learned over the program, but so too did the assignment in 381. So a little bit of juggling and mixing and matching there. Let me know, have you done the UCalgary digital marketing program? Or where are you learning digital marketing? One thing that came up in a group discussion was about where else can we get ongoing training? And we never really got many straight answers. Let me know, and make sure to like and subscribe for all things digital marketing and consulting. Thanks, friends. We'll chat soon. Bye for now.